I'm Stacy Grinsfelder.
And I'm Daniel Cantor.
And you're listening to True Tales from Old Houses, the minisode.
So small, so tiny.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Stacy. How are you?
I am great. We had a little bit of a false fall here. Did you all have one there?
Yes, and we're in it. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
The air is like a little crisp.
Yes.
Everyone's happy.
I pulled my long sleeves out. Suddenly my running stamina has increased threefold. Yeah, I'm like a new person. It's nice to have that little bit of cool air, cools down the house, and then I think this week we're going to have hot weather again, but I'm okay. I'll be ready for summer again. A week of fall, more summer. What's not to love?
What's not to enjoy?
We do have quite a bit to talk about today, including something that I cut from last week's big episode. But before we do, I want to say a thank you to this season's minisode sponsors, Scott Seidler of the Craftsman blog and Sutherland Wells. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. It's been so beautiful here, too, and I feel like I've been really wasting it because I've been, like, in a literal closet for a week trying to get my things under control and all that.
So we were talking about that a little bit on last week's big episode. And first, I have to play the mom card and chastise you a little bit for not enjoying this weather while you've got it. You know what's coming. So you need to go outside, build up that vitamin D, because long about February, things are not going to be pretty around here.
You told me. Yeah, today I pledged to see the sunlight because I finished my closet, more or less. I'm waiting on like a couple little components from the Container Store. Treat yourself. But otherwise, yeah, I know it's like the least exciting thing, a closet, but like, oh my God, it feels so good.
I'm actually glad you brought this up again, too, because last week when I edited the episode that we did with Tux Lurzol, I cut a very important part of our conversation that we were having about your closet.
It couldn't have been that important. Let's be honest.
Oh, it was extremely important because we were talking about track shelving.
Oh, right. Essential.
Agree. I don't even think track shelving made it into the episode, but you and I were having a conversation about if we liked it or not. You were like, absolutely. And I agree. And I thought maybe we could just repeat why we like it so much. Why do you like it so much?
I love track shelving. I honestly believe that it is like a beautifully designed utilitarian thing that is accessible. Elfa, which is Elfa Swedish? Do we know that? Did I make that up?
I don't know, but we're going to go with it.
They seem very Swedish. I think they are Swedish. You know, that is available at Container Store. It's a little expensive, but like you can buy track shelving components at Home Depot, Lowe's, kind of anywhere. And I just think it is clean, it is simple, it is easy to install, and mostly it's very flexible. So anytime I'm doing anything like storage related, I'm constantly on the hunt for a better storage solution. So I'm always like moving shelves and trying to fit things just so. I like track shelving for that reason. That being said, this closet, it was totally gutted. I put all this lovely work into putting beadboard on the walls and the ceiling, and it was all reused, so it took forever to prep and all of this stuff. So I can totally buy why seeing lovely built-in shelves would be very appealing.
Yeah. Listen to me. I'm like, no.
I love my tracks. I really do.
I'm into it because it is incredibly low profile, like you were saying. So if you have anything beautiful in the background, like your beadboard, or maybe you have you've used wallpaper on the back wall of the closet, you can see that. It doesn't take away from that. The shelves are thin, they're strong. Like you said, you can move them up and down on a whim or with thought, depending on how organized you are. So I'm absolutely on board with track shelving.
Okay, can I double down really fast?
Absolutely.
Because I did another thing that I feel like will make people close this podcast immediately. How do you feel about melamine?
Oh, well, okay. I don't In the right circumstance, I think it's fine. When you have a lot of white, for instance, if you're going to paint things white, it's usually pretty much a chameleon, melamine is. I feel like even if it's a kind of an off-white, it reflects that off-white. So it almost always matches. And I did use melamine shelving, track shelving, of course. I have a utility closet for the bathroom and just all the cleaning supplies and everything that we use in the upstairs. I want to be the person who says, oh no, solid wood all the way. But I think it works.
It's so nice. It's so wipeable. It just feels super cleanable.
Well, I am all about easy to clean for sure. I mean, in this house, we had family of 6. So if it wasn't wipeable or steamable or vacuumable, then I don't want it. I think I don't want to have to work with something that's really fussy. So most of the time when I'm considering a new project or a new space, cleaning, how it's going to be cleaned factors in heavily before I even think about what it's going to look like.
100%.
We are in agreement.
Well, bye.
What else do we have to talk about today besides how much we agree on melamine and track shelves?
Actually, another legitimately important thing, I think, this time. Have I told you how I've been occupying my time mentally while I've been physically renovating this closet?
Well, I know that you're doing a lot of, to sound very California, a lot of inner work at this time.
Yeah, that's all it. Never mind. That's it. No, I'm a dedicated podcast listener, sometimes audiobooks, sometimes music, but I mostly would say I do podcasts while I'm working. And to be honest, podcasts that fall well outside this genre because this is what I'm doing. I don't need to be hearing about it too.
Agree. Oh, so this is not related to any inner work. I'm just realizing this is something that you're doing to pass the time.
Yeah.
But my second form of agreement is yes, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts in this genre, if any, for the same purpose. Like this is my whole world pretty much,
Yeah.
Monday through
Yeah.
Friday. So when I'm listening to podcasts, it's definitely something that's going to make me laugh and unrelated to what we're doing here, which also makes me laugh, by the way.
Me too.
What podcast? Or which podcast, I should say.
Coincidentally, not really coincidentally at all, because you definitely recall, the listener probably recalls, that last week we interviewed Tux Slurzel of Detroit Duplex. And Tux, I knew this, and I think I said this during his interview. I could have sworn I had listened to his podcast. And I didn't. So prior to recording that interview, I did listen to a couple episodes and I'm like, this is great. So I went back to the beginning and I have been listening to 5 years of this podcast called Beyond Reproach, which is hosted by our very own Tux Slurzel and his friend Stephanie Domingo, who is so funny. I love Stephanie. Like, if I ever met Stephanie, I think I would start crying. And it's such a good show. The hook of the show is about scandals and scandalousness in American politics from the beginning to now. It is not incredibly like kid friendly. There are 4-letter words that abound, and for me that's totally fine, but maybe not for your like 4-year-olds, unless your 4-year-old is like super mature. So, you know, the stories that they tell truly are like, you know, we're not talking about like Watergate on this podcast. We're talking about like really crazy stuff that involve people you've heard of, but not stories you've ever heard. Like, I would be shocked if people knew these stories because I've certainly never heard them. It's not something you learn in history class. So anyway, great show. And I think does relate to not necessarily things we talk a ton about, but things that are very much in the background of the show or anything talking about housing whatsoever. Can't recommend Beyond Reproach highly enough. They are on sabbatical and have been for about a year, but I'm in my, at least as far as I know, one-man campaign, although I'm sure there's many others who want them to come back. So
Sure.
yeah, thanks Tux Lurzel and Stephanie Domingo for a great show.
True Tales from Old Houses is supported by The Window Course. The Window Course, created by Scott Seidler of the Craftsman blog, is a step-by-step, do-it-yourself program that will teach you everything you need to know to successfully restore your wood windows. It's self-paced, so you can go as fast or as slow as you need, and there are also several price points to fit your needs and budget.
We're headed into the fall, but there is still plenty of time to get cracking on your windows. And the window course has all the information you need all in one place. Scott is offering his students a special deal. If you sign up for the lifetime access package or training package, you'll get a free infrared paint remover, which is a $100 value.
And even more, the window course is offered with a money-back guarantee, and Scott has a special coupon code for True Tales from Old Houses listeners. For 10% off, visit thewindowcourse.com and use the coupon code TrueTales. True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Sutherland Wells. All of Sutherland Wells products are handcrafted in Providence, Rhode Island, with the highest quality, sustainably grown tung oil. Tung oil, native to China, has been used for centuries as a durable finish for wood, metal, and stone.
Polyurethane really just sits on the surface of the wood, but tung oil finish penetrates the surface, so it flexes and contracts as conditions change. This makes it the perfect pre-finish or protectant for everything from fine furniture to window sash and sills.
Now, you know I've tried Millie's and Murdoch's, Slicky Wicky, the furniture polish, and most recently I had a chance to try Botanical.
Oh.
That's a line that's really good for things like baseboards, and it's Green Guard certified for low chemical emissions because Sutherland Wells uses a proprietary all-botanical citrus solvent, so no petroleum ingredients at all.
I love them even better than before.
But no matter what you're working on, it might be hardwood floors, furniture restoration, cutting boards, siding, you name it, Sutherland Wells has the product that you need.
To learn more about the complete product line, visit Sutherland Wells, that's Welles, sutherlandwells.com. And to save 10% on your first order, use the coupon code TrueTales. So, Stacy, it has been a minute since we got kind of an update on, I don't know, Utah and what we're doing about Utah and
Yes,
or not doing.
yes.
I don't know. Do you want to talk about it? Are you comfortable talking about it?
Yeah, I think I am. I think I am ready. I say that as I hem and haw and yeah, what's happening with Utah? I guess when this season started, I jumped right in with this. I don't know what's happening. The house is not for sale yet. I don't know what we're doing. I just needed to get through the summer, my daughter's high school graduation, just a lot of stuff
Oh my
was
gosh.
happening all at once. But yeah, she graduated.
Did I miss that?
No, and she did not get your card and check either
I am
in
so
support of her
sorry.
graduation.
My check. I just send all my money. She could definitely manage it better.
She'll probably manage all her money so well. But yes, she did graduate. So with that behind me, I started thinking about what do I want to do? And Andy and I are definitely trying to figure it out. But we did look at 2 houses recently in the
Oh,
Salt Lake City area. Except for Zillow, I don't think we've set foot. Oh no, one house. We did look at one house before, but other than that, it's all just been Zillow surfing at this point. But Andy did go look at 2 houses up on the mountain in a little community that's up this really winding mountainous road. Both of them were interesting. One thing to know about the Salt Lake City market is that the housing prices are insane for what you
right.
get. For what you
And
get.
like a lot of the houses have been flipped, you said, right?
Oh, so badly. Yeah. They went in, they bought this house for cheap, flipped it. By that, I mean turning it into what looks like a Holiday Inn Express and then putting
Right.
it back on the market for 1.2 million. At this
Right.
point, Salt Lake City is starting to rival places like San Francisco and Los Angeles. Like
Wow.
I've looked at these numbers so long now in Salt Lake City that when I go to look at a house in California, I barely blink anymore. I used to be
Wow.
like, oh my gosh, I can't believe anybody would pay that amount of money, and now I look at Salt Lake City, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not saying I want to pay that much, and I'm not saying that I can pay that much. I'm just
Right. But it's not
saying the
like
shock
shocking.
value. Yeah, the shock value is gone for me. Now, we are in a really, I guess there's no other way to say it, but privileged position in that we got into real estate when we were young. I mean, we are
Hmm.
not in our 20s, we're not in our 30s.
Could have fooled me.
The 40s are a backward glance at this point. So the point of saying all that is that we've had a long time to be in the real estate market. And although we've made some really bad choices, especially in the beginning, lost our shirts on one of the houses, we've had time to recoup that loss.
Hmm.
And so even though those numbers that I'm seeing are staggering, we are sitting really well in the house that we're in right now, Blake Hill House, because we bought it very low. Interest rates were low. So we're at this crossroads, a really nice
Yeah.
crossroads, which I know is not where everybody is at this point, and I feel terrible about that. I don't know where I was going with all of this, but
Well, so basically, the idea is at some point you may sell Blake Hill House, take the money, put it into this next
yes,
potential property in Salt Lake City. I assume the same money doesn't buy you. How big is Blake Hill?
oh my
4,000
gosh,
something.
yeah,
We're downsizing.
we're downsizing.
Okay.
Blake Hill House is 4,600 square feet. The houses that we're looking at that we can afford are around 1,700 square feet, and if they have a garage, then all the better. But other than that, I mean, at this point, I'm being so picky. I'm like, no garage, it's not for me. I don't care how pretty it is.
Garage does seem like a thing you would really want there.
I think so, right. And I need a place. If we're moving to a house that small, I need a place to put all my tools. I need a place to work, like a workshop situation. So, I mean, hopefully we could park in it.
Hmm.
But worst case, we could at least store tools in there, and they wouldn't be in my third bedroom somewhere, which would not be ideal. So, yeah. So the houses we looked at two. One was crazy price for a house that was basically falling off the mountain. So it would work if the price was lower and then we could put money into fixing the house because I liked it. It was 1950s. It looked like
Oh,
a little,
cool.
I actually sent it to you. Do you remember that? I sent you that link.
Oh, was this the one that kind of looked like a little Swiss chalet style?
Yes.
That was a really funny little house. I liked that house.
Oh, yeah. I was in love with it. I really had high hopes for that one because although it was in a state of complete disrepair before I knew it was actually falling off the mountain as well, I just saw its potential, all the things that could be done there. It still had really nice floors, it had nice walls. A lot of things were going to have to come out. It had been unloved for quite some
Hmm.
time. Unfortunately, as I was trying to say before, we took it off the table because the price is too high to put the cash into it to make it worth our time.
Right.
So the first thing people say out there is, "Oh, this is a tear down." That's the absolute first thing they say is, we're just going to level this and even the realtor who I love, he was like, "Yeah, this is really just this is for property only, not just
Wow.
the house." I would not have handled that way, but there's no way we could do that without going in and totally lowballing and saying, look, if you want us to keep the house, then this is all we can offer you because we're going to have to turn around and put a bunch of money into it to bring it up. Like if you don't care about the house, then by all means, let an investor buy this piece of property because that's not who we are and that's not who we can be. So
Right.
that was the first house we just looked at. The other house we saw more recently, in fact, yesterday, Andy went to go look at that one. It was from 1921, but it had been completely updated in 2011, but in a good way. So it looked like a little mountain cabin. And
Hmm.
I was pretty much in love with that one as well. I thought it was really, really cute. So when I say I'm in love, trust me, I'm old enough to know that this stuff all falls apart. Real estate is not something to fall in love with. But, just at glance, it actually made me excited. I started thinking,
Yeah.
oh, this would be really good. It had a heated driveway, which I thought was
Oh,
incredible because in the winter,
yes.
all that snow will just melt off. It had all of these decks. So although it was very small, I think it was, well, on paper, it was like 2,000 square feet. But one of the bedrooms was a loft and one of the bedrooms was in the basement. So that kind of cut into that whole thing. So it had potential to me because the living space was open enough that I could have my whole family there and we could visit and hang out together, even though it was kind of small.
Hmm.
Bedrooms, I don't know where they'd stay. That'd be on them. They'd have to figure that part out. Unfortunately, it was kind of wild. It was nice. It was fine. But there on the table, there were plans for the overall big picture of this property. I guess this was just one phase. And then they had an architect design the rest of the house that would come in other phases. Beautiful piece of property, on the mountainside.
Additions onto the existing house or entirely other structures?
a little of both. I think one was a garage, but also adding onto the house. And it did have a small garage underneath. But the dilemma was the house was so expensive already. There's no way Andy and I could ever afford any additional phases.
Hmm.
And at the, it was funny, like it had doors to nowhere because they would
Right.
eventually lead to something if somebody had built there. But they weren't going to lead to anywhere for us. So, in fact, he said the only way to get in the house is through the garage. So he said you go through the garage and then there's a hall with like a bedroom and a bathroom. He's like, that's the only entrance to the house, which I thought was kind of weird,
Okay.
right? Like you come
Little
through.
weird.
Yeah, I thought that was really bizarre. And I guess the other phases had more of an entrance or, something a little
Hmm.
grander than that. I don't know what they were. But there was a door that led out to a balcony, and up above it, there was a landing that didn't have any access. And it also had like French doors. And then it had a chair. But like, how would you ever get there? And so it was very
Weird.
strange.
So there was no room inside that led out to it?
No, no.
How'd they get the chair up there?
I don't know, a ladder, I
Crane.
guess. Right, a crane. So it was one of those things that had potential, but not for us because our money would be tied up into what it is now with no
Right.
room for improvement or expansion. It did have some extra acreage that you could spin off and sell to someone, but that too was like straight up a mountain. So somebody would have to build on a mountain.
Fascinating.
So the search continues. Nothing new on that front.
Cool. Well, it's exciting to be just like looking at, I don't know, I think it's fun to look.
It is. And I think I'm getting closer to finishing the grieving process
Hmm.
of leaving this house behind. Oh, now I'm feeling kind of emotional. Sorry.
Oh no.
I know. Oh
Oh
no.
no. Oh
Stacy's
no.
gonna cry. No, not the
Vulnerability. Make
emotion.
it
Yeah.
stop. Gross, gross, gross.
No, let me see if I can pull it together. But yeah, so just, going through the process of it's a loss. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
grieving a loss of something that I thought was going to happen here that is not.
Hmm.
And, even if we put the brakes on everything and said, let's stay, I'm not sure that's the right decision either. I think at
Hmm.
this point this house is too big for me. It's too big for just the two of us, Andy and I, with our kids moving out. And, we were talking the other day about how at this point we can afford to fix everything and get it up to speed. It's just that in the years beyond that, when things start falling apart again, it's just going to take every little extra dollar that we have to keep it going. And I think that's not the stage we're in right now.
Yeah. And for a house that you're realistically living in like a third of, and but you're paying
Definitely.
for 100% uh,
Mm-hmm.
to
Right.
to maintain. That's a lot. Yeah. Do you feel at all kind of excited about like just a totally different kind of house? Like, I don't know. I've only ever known you as Blake Hill House, so it's
Right.
the idea of Stacy becoming the owner of a 1950s like weird Swiss chalet style thing in the woods is like what? But I don't know. It's exciting.
I never thought about that, but you're right. Most people who know me only know me as the owner of this big old house from the 1800s. But the truth is, I've lived in a lot of different houses, and
Right.
this is the oldest one I've lived in. Most of the other houses have been small, somewhere between 1,200, and the biggest house before this one that I ever lived in was 2,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a triple wide trailer. So, I haven't always
2,000
lived.
square feet?
It was crazy. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
That's the size of my house. That's crazy.
All on one level too. Not, of course, it was like a triple wide, like a
Sprawling.
yeah, a sprawling triple wide. But yes, this house is very unique. Blake Hill House is, and I do look forward to downsizing. I love this house. I wouldn't have it any other way, but I like the idea of, yeah, just a little less space. I think
Mm-hmm.
it'll feel right. It's the right thing to do, and it feels good. And after working on this house, I am excited to work on something new.
Yeah.
The longest I've ever lived anywhere is California. That was 15 years and consecutively. I did live in Utah prior 2 other times, but not consecutively 15 years. And so, yeah, bring it on, I guess. Bring it on.
Well, I like that attitude. And while you are considering downsizing, I'm considering upsizing.
By upsizing, what do you mean?
Okay, I don't mean moving, I mean building, which
Oh,
is a little nuts, I grant. However, the longer I've lived in this house and the older I've gotten, the more important to me it's become to sort of have flexibility. So, like the duplex is sort of one form of that where I've invested a bunch of money and time in this building, but I've tried to renovate it in a way that every stage is like another thing that will not count against the sales price if and when I go to sell it. So I don't want to be like stuck with that house.
I see.
I don't really want to be stuck with any house. I'll take the cottage all day long because it sold in 48 hours. Like, I like that.
Right.
That was great. My house, I'm not sure people know that. Why would they? It sat on the market for about 2 years before I bought it. It's a great house. And I think what that boiled down to is basically people who were looking at it as an investment because it was divided into two apartments were basically saying, way too much work, not worth it. And people who were looking at it as I could pretty easily convert this to a single family home and live in it, the big stumbling block was actually the layout of the house. And I really do get that because the thing with this house is that it looks big, it feels big, it has these generous rooms on the first floor, including not just one living room, but this enormous parlor. Like it has this grandiosity about it. And then you go upstairs and there's basically two like okay bedrooms and the room that I'm recording this podcast in, which was originally probably like a nursery. It only really fits a twin size bed and that's kind of it. And it just feels like a house that really ought to have 3 to 4 like really good bedrooms, and it really doesn't. It also only has one full bathroom and a half bath downstairs. So I have been thinking very seriously about adding a second floor above the big parlor space and doing like a real kind of primary suite.
Oh, nice. What is there now? Is it just like a one story?
Yeah, it's a 1 story and then it has this kind of crawl space attic. So, like, it's about 4 feet high in the center. So, you certainly can't stand up in it. You can't really, like, do anything with it. This is sort of the time to start, like, really planning this because I haven't done a lot of the major renovation work to that side of the house. So, I'm now thinking about my house as a little bit more like 2 clean phases where I really kind of square away like this main section of the house and then save the rehab of the entire other side for this to be in conjunction with this new construction idea.
I see.
So I don't know. It's all totally a pipe dream right now. I have reached out to an architect that I really like, and they seem, interested in taking on the project. So I think it's worth at least going down the road a ways and seeing kind of how expensive would this really be, and like structurally what it would mean. If I can't just kind of build on top of what's already there, this idea goes out the window. But if I could,
Is there already a bathroom on that side of the house? Could you be building a bathroom on top of another bathroom so that the drainage would all work
oh
together?
heavens, no, Stacy.
Of course not. Never mind. What was I thinking?
But the way that the joists run and stuff, I sort of mapped out the plumbing route. You would need to have either a little chase or like an exposed cast iron pipe in a corner, like which you see all the time. I
Sure.
don't know. I think it's worth it because then the house, at least on paper and sort of in real life, technically becomes a 4-bed, 2.5 bath.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And you and I have both discussed the fact that we try to live our lives in our house right now, not constantly considering what the next buyer will want.
Right.
But that just seems like a very smart decision. I've noticed that people, even if they don't have big families and they're looking for a lot of bedrooms, they love that idea of having a bedroom for, each of their kids or their one kid, an office space. People are really liking to work at home. So it sounds like an idea worth exploring.
I really think so. Yeah, because realistically, this house doesn't really accommodate a family very well. And then the other more obvious sort of temptation in this house is to divide up that big room and turn that into like a primary suite on the first floor. But I really hate that idea, and I don't want anyone to do it in the future either. So I'm trying to preempt by potentially just building an entire other part onto the house. Anyway, so that's what's rolling around in my brain.
Wow. All right. Well, keep us posted and let us know how this goes moving forward.
You know I will.
All right. We're out of time for today.
We're out of time. Look at me, just blabbing again.
Same.
You're so good at it.
Thank you for listening to True Tales from Old Houses. Until next time.
See you next week.